The concept of the war chest is fundamentally different from the concept of a savings account or a retirement portfolio because the war chest is not designed for comfort, it is designed for conflict. The financial advisors of the soft world will tell you to diversify into stocks and bonds and mutual funds to secure your future, but they are selling you tickets to a theater that is currently on fire. By the end of this protocol, you will understand that any asset that relies on the permission of a third party to access is not an asset, it is a liability. We are moving into an era of political money where the utility of your capital will be determined not by its quantity but by your compliance score. The war chest is the countermeasure to this tyranny. It is a collection of assets that cannot be deleted by a server admin, that cannot be frozen by a politician, and that cannot be inflated away by a central banker. The soft men are accumulating numbers on a screen that make them feel rich, but those numbers are merely database entries that can be edited to zero in a millisecond. The architect accumulates hard reality. You are building a fortress of value that exists outside the digital panopticon. If your wealth depends on the electricity running and the internet connecting and the government approving, then you are not wealthy. You are a dependent of the state, waiting for your allowance to be cut off. To understand the urgency of the war chest, you must first accept the terrifying reality of counterparty risk. In the modern financial system, there is no such thing as ownership. There is only claims on ownership. When you deposit money into a bank, you no longer own that money. You have become an unsecured creditor to the bank. The money belongs to the bank, and they have given you an IOU. If the bank fails, your money is gone. If the government orders the bank to freeze your account, your money is frozen. We saw this in Canada during the trucker protests, where perfectly legal protesters had their financial lives extinguished without due process simply for holding the wrong political view. This was the shot heard around the world for the architect. It proved that the banking system is not a neutral utility, it is a weapon of control. The soft men looked away and said, "Well, I am not a protester, so I'm safe." The architect looked at that and said, "If they can do it to them, they can do it to me." You must operate under the assumption that at some point in the future, you will be designated as a non-compliant entity. When that day comes, your credit cards will stop working, your bank transfer will be declined, and your brokerage account will be locked. If you do not have a war chest of undeletable assets on that day, you are dead. You will be forced to kneel to get your digital ration. The war chest is the only thing that allows you to remain standing. The foundation of the war chest is the rejection of fiat currency as a store of value. Fiat money is designed to lose value. It is a melting ice cube. The central banks have an explicit target to devalue the currency by 2% every year, but in reality, the devaluation is much higher. This is a hidden tax on your labor. When you work hard and save fiat currency, you are running on a treadmill that is moving backwards. The soft men try to outrun the treadmill by chasing yield in the stock market, but the stock market is manipulated by the same liquidity injections that are destroying the currency. It is a hall of mirrors. The architect steps off the treadmill. You understand that savings in fiat is a fool's game. You only hold enough fiat to cover your short-term operational expenses. The rest of your energy must be transmuted into assets that have physical gravity. An asset with gravity cannot be blown away by the winds of inflation. It has mass. It takes up space. It requires effort to move. This physical friction is what protects it. It is easy for the government to print $1 trillion. It is impossible for the government to print 1 trillion ounces of gold or 1 trillion acres of land. By moving your wealth from the easy money to the hard assets, you are aligning yourself with the laws of thermodynamics rather than the whims of politicians. The war chest also requires a shift in psychology from net worth to liquid power. The soft men are obsessed with net worth. They look at the zestimate of their house and the paper value of their 401k and they say, "I am a millionaire." But this is locked wealth. You cannot spend your house at the grocery store. You cannot access your 401k without a massive penalty and a government permission slip. If a crisis hits, liquidity is the only thing that matters. Can you access the value now? Can you move the value now? Can you use the value to bribe a border guard or buy a generator or secure a safe house now? The architect focuses on sovereign liquidity. The war chest is composed of assets that are highly liquid and highly portable but completely private. A gold coin is liquid power. A Bitcoin private key is liquid power. A stack of cash is liquid power. These things allow you to project agency into the world immediately. The man with a $10 million illiquid estate is vulnerable to the man $10,000 in a backpack. In a collapse scenario, the price of everything falls to the level of the available. If no one has cash, the man with the cash sets the price. You are building a position of cash dominance in hard terms, so that when the soft world faces a liquidity crisis, you are the buyer of last resort. We must also analyze the threat of the central bank digital currency, or CBDC, which is the ultimate antithesis of the war chest. The CBDC is not just digital money, it is programmable money. It gives the state the power to dictate not just that you can spend, but what you can spend on and when you can spend it. They can put an expiration date on your money to force you to spend it to stimulate the economy. They can geofence your money so it only works within 5 miles of your home to enforce a lockdown. They can carbon tax your money automatically at the point of sale. This is the biometric guillotine applied to finance. The war chest is your escape hatch from this system. When the CBDC is implemented, the gray economy will explode. People will trade goods and services off the books to avoid the surveillance and the control. The assets in your war chest, gold, silver, ammo, skills, crypto, will become the reserve currency of the free people. You are accumulating the chips for the game that will be played after the current game ends. The soft men will be trapped in the CBDC loop, begging for an allowance increase. You will be operating in the parallel market, trading real value for real value. The war chest is not just wealth, it is the battery pack for the resistance. The construction of the war chest requires operational silence. You do not talk about the war chest. You do not post pictures of your gold on Instagram. You do not tell your friends how much Bitcoin you have. The first rule of the war chest is that it does not exist. In a world of wealth inequality and social unrest, displaying wealth makes you a target. The architect practices stealth accumulation. You buy your gold with cash at local coin shops, so there is no shipping record. You mix your Bitcoin so there is no chain analysis linked to your identity. You bury your backup supplies in locations that only you know. This obscurity is a layer of security. If the mob doesn't know you have it, they can't come for it. If the government doesn't know you have it, they can't tax it or confiscate it. The soft men flaunt their wealth because they need validation. The architect hides his wealth because he needs survival. You look like a regular person. You drive a regular car. You live in a regular house. But underneath the surface, you are sitting on a mountain of sovereign capital. This information asymmetry gives you the upper hand. You know you can walk away from any negotiation. You know you can survive any job loss. You know you can weather any storm. This secret knowledge changes your posture. It changes your eye contact. It makes you dangerous because you are not desperate. Finally, the war chest is a dynastic responsibility. You are not just building this for yourself. You are building it for the lineage. The fiat system destroys generational wealth through inflation and inheritance taxes. It is designed to reset the score to zero every generation so that the children of the rich become the employees of the state. The war chest breaks this cycle. Gold does not have a probate process if you hand it to your son before you die. Bitcoin does not have an estate tax if you pass on the seed phrase. You are creating a parallel inheritance mechanism. You are passing down the hard assets that will allow your grandchildren to be architects. The soft men leave their children a pile of debt and a set of instructions on how to be a good employee. You are leaving your children a pile of weapons, financial and physical, and a set of instructions on how to be a king. The war chest is the physical manifestation of your love for your bloodline. It is the shield you forge today to protect them from the arrows of tomorrow. The accumulation of these assets is not hoarding, it is the highest form of duty. You are converting your labor into a shield that will last for centuries. The philosophy is clear, the system is rigged, the money is fake, the ownership is an illusion. The only way to win is to exit the game and build your own game. The war chest is your game. It is the collection of things that are real in a world of lies. It is the accumulation of power that cannot be voted away. It is the ultimate veto against the encroaching tyranny. Now that we understand the why, we must move to the what. We must identify the specific assets that qualify for the war chest and the mechanics of acquiring them without triggering the alarm bells of the system. The audit of your current portfolio begins now. If it has a counterparty, sell it. If it has a delete button, sell it. If it relies on the goodwill of a politician, sell it. We are moving to the hard standard. The transition from the digital illusion to the kinetic reality requires a complete restructuring of your portfolio, where you stop measuring wealth in dollars and start measuring wealth in ounces, acres, and rounds. The soft men diversify their paper assets across different sectors of the same rigging casino, believing they are safe because they own both tech stocks and government bonds. The architect understands that in a systemic collapse, the correlation between all paper assets goes to 1. They all fall together because they are all backed by the same faith in a dying system. To build the analog fortress, you must allocate your capital into things that have intrinsic utility and physical permanence. These are assets that do not require electricity to exist. They do not require a lawyer to validate. They do not require a password to access. They simply are. This is the base layer of reality. When the lights go out and the internet fails and the supply chains break, the man who owns the base layer becomes the new central bank. He becomes the node of stability in a network of chaos. We are going to deconstruct the 4 pillars of the hard asset allocation: precious metals, productive land, ballistic currency, and durable goods. This is not investment advice for a comfortable retirement. This is survival advice for a turbulent century. 1. The metallic standard: gold and silver. Gold is not an investment. It is a sovereignty mechanism. The soft men look at the price of gold in dollars and complain that it doesn't yield a dividend. They are missing the point. Gold is the battery that stores your labor through time without leaking energy. It is the only money that is not someone else's liability. When you hold a gold coin, you are holding the only asset that has no counterparty risk. The architect allocates a significant portion of his liquid net worth, 10 to 20%, into physical bullion. You do not buy paper gold, GLD/SLVETFS, because paper gold is a claim on metal that likely does not exist or has been rehypothecated 100 times over. You want the metal in your hand. You want the coin that makes a specific sound when you drop it on the table, the sound of money. The strategy for gold is bribe and flight. Gold is for high-value transactions. It is for buying a safe passage across a border. It is for buying a house when the currency collapses. It is for bribing a corrupt official to look the other way. You want recognized sovereign coinage: American eagles, Canadian maples, or South African krugerrands. These are the Visa and MasterCard of the hard money world. Everyone recognizes them. Everyone accepts them. Avoid obscure numismatic coins or large bars that are hard to verify. You want divisibility and recognizability. Silver is the transactional currency of the apocalypse. The gold to silver ratio tells you that silver is undervalued, but the tactical ratio tells you that silver is for bread. If you need to buy a tank of gas or a week's worth of groceries, you do not want to try and shave a flake off a gold ounce. You want silver. Specifically, you want junk silver, pre-1964 US quarters and dimes that contain 90% silver. These are the ultimate survival currency. They are recognizable, they are fractional, and they don't look like treasure, so they don't paint a target on your back. The architect stacks silver by weight. You fill ammo cans with silver quarters. This is your checking account. Gold is your savings account. When the fiat system hyperinflates, the man with the silver quarters eats. The man with the Bitcoin eats. If the internet is on, the man with the credit card starves. 2. The strategic hamlet. Productive land is the foundation of the analog fortress, but not all land is created equal. The soft men buy McMansions in the suburbs with homeowners associations that dictate the color of their mailbox. This is not ownership. This is tenancy with debt. The architect seeks productive sovereignty. You want land that can sustain life. The primary metric for land is not the view, it is the water. Water is the new oil. If your land does not have a natural water source, a well, a spring, or a year-round creek, it is worthless in a grid-down scenario. You cannot import water when the trucks stop running. You must control the source. The second metric is the golden horde radius. You want to be at least one tank of gas away from a major population center. When the cities collapse, and they will, the zombie horde will expand outward in search of resources. They will consume everything in their path until they run out of fuel. You want to be located beyond that event horizon. You want to be in a community of like-minded producers, not consumers. You want standoff distance. The land must be productive. You are not buying a lawn, you are buying soil. Can you grow potatoes? Can you graze cattle? Is there timber for heat? The soft men view their yard as a cosmetic burden to be mowed. The architect views his land as a calorie factory. You plant fruit trees today so your children can eat in 10 years. You build the greenhouse. You amend the soil. You treat the land as a living partner in your survival. This is the ultimate hedge against food inflation. When the price of beef triples, you don't care because you own the cow. When the shelves are empty, you don't care because you have the garden. 3. Ballistic currency. Ammo as money. In a polite society, money is gold. In a collapsed society, money is lead. Ammunition is the universal translator. It speaks all languages. It creates immediate leverage. The architect stockpiles ammunition not just for defense, but as a form of ballistic currency. In a scenario where the supply chains shatter, a box of 50 rounds of 9mm will be worth more than a stack of $100 bills. You cannot eat a $100 $100 bill, and you cannot use it to protect your family. You can use ammo to hunt, and you can use ammo to defend. This creates intrinsic value. The strategy is standardization. Do not buy weird calibers that no one uses. You want the NATO standards: 9mm, 5.56, .308, and 12 gauge. These are the most common rounds in the West. If you need to trade, these are the rounds people will want. If you need to scavenge, these are the rounds you will find. The architect maintains a combat load, minimum 1,000 rounds per primary rifle for defense, and a barter stack for trade. The weapon itself is a tool, not a fetish. The soft men collect guns like they collect Funko Pops to look cool on Instagram. The architect treats weapons as kinetic insurance policies. You need a reliable rifle that can reach out 300 meters. You need a reliable pistol that is always on your person. You need a shotgun for home defense and hunting. And most importantly, you need the training. A man with a $5,000 rifle who doesn't know how to clear a malfunction is a loot drop for the man with a $500 rifle who trains every week. The asset is not the gun. The asset is the skill coupled with the gun. 4. The durable standard. Tools and energy. The final pillar of the analog fortress is the accumulation of forever goods. We live in a disposable economy where everything is designed to break in 2 years, so you have to buy it again. The architect exits this cycle. You buy the buy it for life, BIFL version of everything. You stop buying cheap Chinese plastic and you start buying forged steel. Hand tools are critical. What happens when the battery on your DeWalt drill dies and there is no grid to charge it? You need a brace and bit. You need hand saws. You need axes. These tools work as long as you have calories to burn. Energy independence is the nervous system of the fortress. The grid is a leash. If you rely on the grid, you are subject to the whims of the state and the fragility of the infrastructure. The architect builds a microgrid. This means solar panels, not to save the planet, but to save the command center. It means a battery bank, LIFEPO4, that can keep the lights on and the freezer running. It means a generator with a tri-fuel carburetor, gas, propane, natural gas. And most importantly, it means wood. Wood is the ultimate biomass battery. If you have a wood stove and a wooded lot, you have infinite heat. You are immune to the winter. The soft men freeze when the power lines go down. The architect throws another log on the fire and reads a book. You also stockpile medical sovereignty. Antibiotics. Fish antibiotics work in a pinch if you know the chemistry. Trauma kits, tourniquets, chest seals, and the knowledge to use them. In a collapse, a simple infection kills you just as dead as a bullet. The ability to stitch a wound or treat an infection is a high-value skill that makes you indispensable to your tribe. The psychology of the stack building. The analog fortress requires a shift in how you view spending. The soft man sees buying a gold coin as spending money. The architect sees it as exchanging currency for money. You are not spending, you are converting. You are moving wealth from a fragile state to a durable state. When you buy a high-quality axe, you are not spending money, you are capitalizing your toolshed. You are acquiring an asset that will produce value, firewood, construction, for decades. This accumulation must be done quietly. The first rule of the fortress is you do not talk about the fortress. If you tell your neighbors you have a year's supply of food and gold, you are not preparing. You are restocking their pantry. You must appear average. You must appear boring. While the soft men are buying Teslas and leasing luxury apartments, you are buying acreage and stacking silver. They will think you are crazy or paranoid. Let them. When the music stops, they will be looking for a chair, and you will be sitting on a throne made of hard assets. The analog fortress is not about hiding from the world. It is about building a position of strength from which you can engage the world on your own terms. It is about creating a zone of stability where your family can thrive regardless of the external chaos. It is the physical manifestation of the architect's will. You are carving out a piece of reality and saying, "This is mine." The chaos stops here. The war chest is now defined. You have the philosophy, part 1. You have the allocation, part 2. But a fortress is useless if the commander is dead. We must now address the final element of the war chest, the biological and skill capital. The final vulnerability of the war chest is visibility, because in a world of scarcity, a stockpile is a magnet for violence. The soft men who panic buy toilet paper and canned beans when the news tells them to are not preparing. They are signaling their fear to the algorithm and their neighbors. They are painting a target on their front door. The architect understands that the only secure supply chain is an invisible one. You must construct a system of logistics that allows you to accumulate massive resources without triggering the hoarding algorithms of the surveillance state or the envy of the local population. Furthermore, you must accept the brutal truth that stuff is a liability if you lack the competence to defend it and the skill to maintain it. A man with a warehouse of food but no ability to shoot is merely gathering supplies for the man who can shoot. A man with a generator but no knowledge of small engine repair is sitting in the dark the moment the spark plug fouls. The ultimate asset in the war chest is not gold or lead. It is the skill stack. It is the software running in your brain that allows you to manipulate the hardware of reality. By the end of this protocol, you will understand how to ghost your logistics and how to turn yourself into a universal soldier of the analog world. A man who can fix, fight, farm, and heal when the experts are gone and the helplines are dead. Greyman Logistics, the art of the invisible stockpile. The first rule of the invisible supply chain is source divergence. If you buy all your survival supplies on Amazon, you are building a digital dossier that labels you as a high-value target or a domestic extremist. The algorithm sees the water filters, the MREs, and the solar chargers. It aggregates this data. When the clampdown comes, they know exactly which doors to kick. The architect sources offline. You buy your rice and beans in 50-pound bags from the restaurant supply store, paying in cash. You look like a guy running a catering business, not a guy building a bunker. You buy your medical supplies in small, disparate batches from different pharmacies or cash-based surplus stores. You scatter your data trail so it looks like background noise, not a focused preparation. The storage strategy is decentralized caching. Do not put all your eggs in one basket and do not put all your ammo in one safe. The architect assumes that his primary location could be compromised by fire, flood, or raid. You maintain a deep larder at home, but you also maintain satellite caches. This could be a storage unit paid for in cash, or a prepaid card, a berry tube on a piece of rural land, or a stash at a trusted family member's house. This is the principle of redundancy. 2 is 1, 1 is none. If you are forced to flee your main fortress, the bug out, you are not running into the void, you are running toward your resupply. Food rotation is the discipline that separates the architect from the hoarder. The hoarder buys a bucket of freeze-dried sludge and leaves it in the basement for 20 years. When he finally opens it, he finds it is spoiled or acts as a morale killer because it tastes like despair. The architect operates a working pantry. You eat what you store and you store what you eat. This is the copy-paste method. If your family eats pasta, you don't buy one box, you buy 20. When you use one, you replace one. You are essentially acting as your own distribution center. This buffers you against inflation. You bought today's meal at last year's prices and ensures your digestive system is adapted to your survival diet. Morale is a caloric resource. In a crisis, a familiar meal is a psychological anchor. Eating strange survival food increases stress. Eating a steak and potatoes from your deep freezer signals victory. 2. Medical autonomy, the healer in the ruins. The most undervalued asset in the war chest is medical sovereignty. The modern man is utterly dependent on the pharmaceutical supply chain. If the trucks stop, the diabetic dies in a month, the asthmatic dies in a week, the man with the infection dies in 10 days. The architect creates a medical buffer. You must secure a supply of life-saving antibiotics. In the grey market, you can acquire fish antibiotics, mox, cipro, penicillin, which are often manufactured in the same facilities as human drugs. You research the dosages. You buy the reference books, like the Merck manual or Where There Is No Doctor. You are not playing doctor. You are preparing for when there is no doctor. Dental health is the silent killer. In a collapse, a tooth abscess is a death sentence. It leads to sepsis. It creates blinding pain that renders you combat ineffective. The architect prioritizes dental maintenance now. You get the cavities filled. You get the wisdom teeth pulled. You stockpile clove oil for pain and temporary filling material. You treat your teeth like the tactical assets they are. Furthermore, you need the trauma skill set. A first aid kit is useless if you panic at the sight of blood. You need to take a stop the bleed course. You need to know how to pack a wound, apply a tourniquet, and secure an airway. These are the mechanics of keeping the biological machine running when it has been punctured. The soft men faint at the sight of a needle. The architect can stitch a laceration by candlelight because he has practiced on a pig's foot. You become the tribal medic. This makes you indispensable. Even if people hate you, they will protect you because you are the only one who can keep them alive. 3. The skill stack. The undeletable capital assets can be confiscated. Gold can be stolen. A house can be burned. But skills are undeletable. They are the only form of wealth that you carry across the river Styx. The architect builds a full-stack competence profile. You reject the modern specialization that forces you to be good at one narrow thing, like coding, and useless at everything else, like fixing a flat tire. You aspire to the polymath of survival. The mechanical tier. Can you fix what you own? If you have a generator, you must be a mechanic. If you have a house, you must be a carpenter. You need to understand the basics of electricity, plumbing, and internal combustion. The soft man calls a guy guy. The architect is the guy. When the grid fails, the man who can rewire a solar panel is a wizard. The agricultural tier. Can you turn sunlight into calories? This is the ultimate alchemy. You need to know how to save seeds, how to compost, and how to butcher. Butchery is critical. Can you look an animal in the eye, end its life humanely, and process it into food without wasting the resource? This removes the abstraction of the supermarket. It reconnects you to the cycle of life and death. The tactical tier. Can you move, shoot, and communicate? Tactical training is not about looking cool in gear. It is about stress inoculation. You need to know how to clear a room. You need to know how to set up a defensive perimeter. You need to know how to use a radio, ham/GMRS, to coordinate with your tribe. The radio is your nervous system. If you cannot communicate, you are isolated. If you are isolated, you are dead. The dark tier, social engineering. This is the skill of the diplomat and the warlord. In a chaotic environment, the ability to read people, to negotiate, to persuade, and to detect lies is more valuable than a gun. You need to know how to de-escalate a conflict before it turns kinetic. You need to know how to barter. You need to know how to project authority so that the desperate mob thinks twice about attacking you. This is psychological armor. The architect leads not just by force but by frame. You remain calm when others panic. This calmness attracts followers. Followers create a tribe. A tribe creates survival. 4. The final assembly. The architect's stand. The war chest is now complete. You have the hard assets, gold, land, ammo, that act as the battery of your wealth. You have the invisible supply chain, food, meds, logistics, that acts as the fuel for your endurance. And you have the skill stack, mechanics, tactics, medicine, that acts as the operating system for your sovereignty. This is not a hobby. This is not prepping for a weekend camping trip. This is the reconstruction of the patriarchal role. For the last 50 years, the system has tricked men into outsourcing their protection, their provision, and their competence to the state and the corporation. They said, "Don't worry, we will feed you, we will protect you, we will fix it." This was a lie. They made you soft so they could shear you. The architect reclaims the burden. You are saying, "I will feed myself, I will protect myself, I will fix it myself." This shift in mindset is terrifying to the system, because a man who needs nothing is a man who cannot be controlled. You are severing the leash. When you look at your war chest, at the stack of silver, the deep pantry, the well-oiled rifle, and the calloused hands, you are not looking at stuff. You are looking at liberty. You are looking at the ability to say no. No to the mandate. No to the bug pod. No to the digital cage. The storm is coming. The soft men are dancing on the deck of the Titanic, arguing about the music. You have built the lifeboat. You have stocked it. You have learned to row. The war chest is closed. The architect is ready. The protocol is executed.